Welcome to Your On Mute Studios and this episode of Let's Make Millions. I'm Rob Medved, CEO of Canela Media, with my managing partner here, Bill Raymond, in Santa Monica. We had quite the guest today.
His energy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I
thought I had a lot of energy. Cody takes it to the next level.
Yeah, I can't wait to have him on again. So Cody Sperber from Clever Investor, and he is a digital marketing genius, kind of
guru.
For sure. Self-taught, self-made, which a lot of entrepreneurs and marketers are, right? They don't hire an agency to do their work. And he talks a lot about that, about owning your story, owning the ad copy, connecting with your consumer on a level that's deeper than just trying to sell them something.
Yeah, and I think not only if you are going to start your own business, but I think even just for your own brand, and if you just want to look and see how can I make more followers on LinkedIn, I think what he says is so transparent. I think it flows into all of those areas.
Yeah, he's very real, very honest. You trust him. That's what you're doing. You're building trust by sharing yourself and getting all vulnerable with your story and how you got to where you were. And at the end of the day, the consumer, the guy, the woman that's going to buy your product, they want to connect with you. They want to see the real you and understand that you got where you are from a similar place to where they are at this point. And I think he does an incredible job at that. Very successful, multimillionaire, flew in from Scottsdale just to sit with us. We're talking to him about bringing him to television from online, taking him offline to see if we can increase his awareness and help him tell his story on a bigger scale, perhaps. So.
Super, super exciting.
Yeah. So stay tuned for a lot of that. As you know, or may not know, as part of Let's Make Millions, we also have a facet called Let's Give Millions, where we donate to a charity on the behalf of the guest. We don't want to just be talking about make money. We want to be talking about giving it away as well. And Cody's done a great job of raising a ton of money and giving away some money to his charity of choice, which is MakeMoneyMatter.org. MakeMoneyMatter.org is helping build orphanages in Mexico.
It's awesome.
So happy to do that. Stay tuned and hear from Cody and a lot of good stories.
Get up on your feet, this is a shakedown. And you can rock and roll with an attitude. So good, so fresh, just the way you like it. So good, so fresh.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this episode of Let's Make Millions. We're here in the You're on Mute studios in what is not a sunny day in Santa Monica, but I'm here with my managing partner, Bill Raymond. I'm CEO of Canela Media, Rob Medved. Our guest today is Cody Sperber, Clever Investor. Cody, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Cody.
So you're down in the Phoenix area, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. We met each other. And networking pays off. We did like a men's retreat where we got down into the weeds on how to be a better man and
leveling up.
And we leveled up, and out of that we found, and it was a great group of guys. We were all entrepreneurs.
It was amazing.
To the end, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Transformative stuff. But that's not what this is about. That's for another day. But out of that, you and I connected on direct response. You're a great direct marketer in real estate. We have done direct marketing for
the best
decades. Yeah. And so our worlds have collided now, and you're in here in Los Angeles. We're going to talk about maybe potentially doing a deal, getting you on TV and stuff like that. But we just wanted to learn a little bit more about you, and you swim in a pond that we're not real deep in, which is, direct marketing online. But let's start at the beginning. Let's go all the way back. Where are you from? Tell a little bit about your story.
Grew up in Mesa, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, got it. Went through high school. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I went to my counselor, aka my dad, and said, "Hey, what should I do?" He said, "Well, you probably should try college." And so I went for about 4 hours one day to community college.
4 hours?
4 hours, yeah.
You made it longer than Bill.
I made it to lunchtime.
No, it took me a lot longer to figure out this isn't for me, but
it wasn't my jam. And so I went back to my counselor and said, "Dad, what should I do next?" And he said, "I don't know, maybe join the military." So next thing you know, I'm in the Navy. Best decision I ever made. Phenomenal experience. Hated it during the time that you're doing it, but I manned up. They really leaned in on building confidence and appreciating structure and systems and travel in the world. You don't really realize how lucky you are until you travel. to live, especially in the United States. And
Gives you perspective.
And I went to like 25, 30 different countries, just saw some wild stuff, had a blast, grew up. And then when I was getting out, I really still didn't know what I wanted to do. Go back to my counselor. What should I do, Dad? And he said, well, look, use the MGI Bill, go to college, but here's the thing. Don't get some lame degree. You got to get something that you can use in business. I said, what do you think? And he said, the only degree worth anything is finance. So go get a finance degree, emphasize in accounting, and you'll be okay. You'll figure it out from there. And so that's what I did. I was lucky enough that the military paid for my college, went to ASU. And for the first time in my life, I was a C&D student my whole childhood. I smoked a lot of weed and didn't really try. And but then here I am now. I'm an adult. I care deeply. By the way, I don't do drugs. But I cared about my grades. I cared about my future. And so first time ever, I got straight A's, crushed it in school. And lucky enough, during that time, a friend of mine named Jeremy asked me to go to lunch, and he pulls up in a brand new Mercedes. And I'm like, dude, how did you get the car? And he goes, I flipped a house and made $80,000.
And this is in Phoenix area?
This is in college, yeah. And it was just a random lunch. And I said, BS, no freaking way.
What year is this about?
2003,
okay.
2004, 2003. And I said, you're full of it. I was partying with you. You don't have any money. You don't have money to even buy a house. How'd you flip a house? And he said, oh, dude, give me a napkin. And he literally penciled out on a napkin this concept called wholesaling, which is no money down real estate. And it took him like 10, 15 minutes to explain it to me. And I ended up taking the napkin home with me because it blew my mind. I always thought of real estate as very traditional. Be an agent, get a license, make a lot of money at your job, get rich, and then buy real estate, right? And that's what you think of it. I didn't realize there's a whole world of creative real estate. And when he told me that, it was kind of shattering a lot of my belief system. But unfortunately, at the time, you got to go back. There wasn't a lot on Google. There wasn't social media. There wasn't a lot of information. And so I went to the newspaper and I found like these gurus that would fly all over the country and put on these seminars. And I would find where they are near me, and I would get on a plane, and I would go to these seminars. And
were these guys talking about wholesaling?
They were talking. Well, they were talking a little bit about everything, but yes, wholesaling was part of it. Because
and what is wholesaling? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt the story too much, but wholesaling is what? Can you give us a real high level?
Think of this. Most people, if they want to sell, they're never going to sell at a discount. They're just not motivated enough to sell at a discount. However, there is always a portion of the population that will sell at a discount because of divorce or death or job relocation or the house itself is old and ugly, maybe fire damage, flood damage, some motivational reason where instead of selling with a real estate agent, taking whatever time necessary to get their money out of the house.
And the commission.
And paying commissions and all that stuff, doing it the traditional way, they would rather get cash by like next Friday. And so if you've ever drove down the street and see those Ugg buys ugly houses signs or anything, that's really what they're doing is they're finding the motivated sellers that are out there and offering them cash to get their house. And normally when you pay cash, you get a discount.
Gotcha.
And what wholesaling essentially is matchmaking. So if I come to you and you're motivated and your house is worth $150,000 but needs a bunch of work, and I negotiate with you to put it under contract for $90,000, and you say yes, and I fill out a contract with you, I now gain equitable interest in your house. I haven't bought it yet, but I control it.
How much money do you need to have? Like, do you put
money
down?
Whatever the earnest deposit is.
That's
so
it.
it could be $500, it could be $1,000.
And who comes up with that number?
You negotiate it. So think about this. It's two people negotiating over a bike on Craigslist. You want $100, I want to pay you $50. You come back at $70, I come back at $60, and you shake my hand. I pay you the $60. Well, in real estate, it takes a little longer. So I'll write up a contract, and then we put up what's called consideration, otherwise known as an earnest deposit. And that shows you that I'm having good faith in that I'm going to do this transaction with you. Well, once I put it under contract, I actually control your real estate. No different if I rented it from you. You couldn't rent it to somebody else because you rented it to me. I have certain rights in your house, even though I don't own it. I get to right to use it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, in a purchase contract, I have the right to buy it for a specific price that we agreed upon within a specific time frame. So if that time frame is 30 days, I have a certain amount of time before I actually have to pay you the money for the house. Well, during that period, what if I took that contract for $90,000 and I found a landlord or a rehabber that's looking for good deals? Mm-hmm. They're looking for off-market distressed real estate. And I say, hey, I got this house. It's worth $150. I'm into it for $90. I'll sell it to you for $100. You want it? And they go, yeah, I'll take it for $100 all day long. It's a $50K discount from retail.
And you made 10 grand.
If once I play matchmaker and I take my contract and I assign it to that landlord or rehabber, and they use their cash to close on it, when that deal closes, I get 10 grand. The original seller gets their 90, and the rehabber or landlord gets a property that they can put into their portfolio or flip and make a profit. Yep. It's a beautiful no money down strategy. That's what Jeremy did to make 80K.
Gotcha.
That's what blew my socks off, because I was like, no freaking way. I can do that because I have the one thing that you need to do those kind of things, and that's a lot of time and hustle.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have money. I don't have experience.
You have time to find the 1 out of 10.
I look like I'm 15. Like, all of it was not working for me, except for I had lots of time and I had the ability to go hustle and try to find these deals.
And I know we know something about your whole wholesale business today, and we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But let's go back. So back to the Jeremy, and you're like blown away. You're like, I can do this. Got a lot of time on my hands. You decide to go track down a bunch of real estate seminar people.
I'm a buyer. They loved me.
Yeah.
I had my credit card in my hand. The guru on the stage would say, I'm going to teach you how to get rich. And I threw my credit card at him and said, let's go.
Yeah.
Because I was just
soaking it all
I
up.
just wanted all the information because there wasn't a lot online.
Yeah.
Well, the challenge with that is you buy all these books and tapes and courses, and it's like drinking from a fire hose. I got super overwhelmed very, very quickly. It took me 14 months to do my first deal. Jeremy did it in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It took me 14 months.
What, were you thinking too much, or it was just he had the luck of the Irish? Or
I
something?
think so. Yeah. Well, by the time I did one deal, he did like 3.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it was just me overcomplicating things.
Are you guys still doing some flow deals together?
You know, Jeremy went off. He became a software engineer and got a phenomenal job, and he still owns a bunch of real estate. We talk every once in a while. He liked real estate. I loved real estate. Mm-hmm. I fell in love. Like, I was obsessed. And so, even though it took me 14 months, I eventually, and the reason it took me 14 months to be truthful is I had too much energy shattering across every single thought I could. I was almost like overcharged. If I met you at a networking event and you said, this is how I do it, next thing I know, I'm off on that tangent. And then I meet you one day later and you said, no, this is how we do it, and I'm off on that tangent.
Yeah.
And it took a mentor to pull it back in and put the blinders on me and say, Cody, these are the only steps you need to take. You're too overwhelmed. You're doing too many things. Pull it together. And through great mentorship and coaching, I finally got my first deal. But that first deal was for $40K. And at the time, I was a bookkeeper. I was going to school. I was doing bookkeeping on the side. And I was making $34,000 a year as a bookkeeper. Guess what I did the next day when I closed a $40K deal?
Exactly.
You quit.
I'm done. I'm Jerry Maguiring that. I'm like, who's coming with me? We're out of here. And
14 months later.
Yeah. But it was, it's like Roger Bannister running a 4-minute mile. Mm-hmm. Once it became real, I could do it over and over and over again. It was like, I could do this.
Yeah.
And I did. And I became a great wholesaler, and I flipped hundreds and hundreds of houses. And then eventually you get the courage to like, hey, let's do a rehab. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out get a contractor and like try to make a bigger payday.
Yeah.
Because wholesaling really is like deal finding. I might make $5,000, $10,000, $30,000. That first one where I made 40, that was an anomaly. Yeah. Jeremy's 80K was an anomaly. Normally I was making 5, 10, 15 grand. But you do 3 in a month, you're making 15 grand a month. My parents weren't making 15 grand a month. Right. So to me, it was life changing. But eventually you get smart and you're like, I want to do bigger deals. And so you start rehabbing. And then eventually my mentor was slapping me upside the head saying, dude, you're not even an investor. You're like a hustler. Mm-hmm. You could be doing this with anything, but you're not getting the tax benefits. You're not owning the real estate. You got to own the real estate. And so eventually I started buying them and holding them as rentals. And that's when I shifted to like wealth building and like actually scaling my business and breaking free of the rat race.
And when was this? Was this still pre-crash?
This was leading into the crash. And then through the whole crash is when I really made tens of millions of dollars. buying the distressed real estate. I
Right.
was at the right place at the right time with
So-
now the skills and capabilities.
So we know this story, but let's talk a little bit about this story. So, everybody, it's when you have leverage and you have knowledge and you have experience and it meets the right time. Everybody in the world calls it luck,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's being prepared. And so you were prepared in 2008, 2009 like no other, and you were just basically drinking from a fire hose. I guess,
It was
right?
amazing.
Yeah.
It was really
So
cool.
walk us through that a
It
little
was freaking Christmas.
Yeah.
It was
Christmas. Every day I was making 10, 20, 30,000 a day.
Yeah.
And I was down at the foreclosure auctions. I couldn't buy enough. There was so much inventory.
And banks were just dumping
It was
inventory
insane.
onto the
None of it
marketplace.
made sense.
Yep.
These are houses 2 years old that were 150,000 going for 40.
Yep.
2 years ago they were building them for 150, which is like nowadays not that expensive, and they were fire selling for 40, 50K down at the
Yeah.
auction. And so I would go there and buy 2-3 houses a day every day of the week.
Were the same groups that like you would find the houses, and then the same groups, were they those same ones that kept buying them and buying them?
Well,
from you,
so
or was it different
so
groups?
everybody down at the auction has to pay cash, and so obviously I had money, but I didn't have enough to scale like that. And the auction business is a kind of scary business, especially if you're new, because everybody down there is kind of a gangster. Like they know that there's big money there. It's like a good old boys club. They don't like newbies. And so I had to work my way in through a guy named Frank Berry, who was one of the OGs down at the auction. And I would buy through him and work with him because that was my pass to get into the good old boys club.
Were you buying single homes? Were you buying groups of homes?
No. These are one home at a time, but these are like in Arizona on the west side of town. There were these it was called Maryville Terrace. It was the Glendale Stadium corridor. There was all these houses that were like $150,000 to $180,000 houses going for 30, 40 grand. To me, I could wrap my head around that. It was an easy buy. I can come up with 30, 40 grand.
You understood that.
I understood that. And some people, we battle over this. It's like, where do you start? Do you start with the big apartment building or do you start with the house? It depends on your comfort level. My comfort level was like, I could wrap my hands around a house. I can move quickly. It wasn't overwhelming. I do wish I would have done bigger deals earlier, but
that opportunity might be coming.
yeah. And so, but here's the thing. I would know a guy like you guys. And I would say, hey, man, I'm down at the foreclosure auction buying these houses for $30K. They were worth $150 a year ago. Here's the cool news. They still rent for $1,100.
Right.
And you're like, do the math, and you're like, I'll take 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. I need you to wire me I'm going to call you, and I'm going to say, hey, we won a house. You didn't even really care what house it was,
Yeah.
where it was located. You just
Cash
knew
flow.
it. Rent it
Yeah.
for $1,100. And I would say, hey, we won a house. I need you to wire me $30K by 5 o'clock tomorrow. And you would do it out of pure trust of our relationship. And I would go and hand it to the auctioneer and say, here's the payoff. And
And that's it. Then you get the deed.
like
And this
9
is-
weeks later, they would
and this
mail
was-
you a deed. It was like the
Did
Wild
you ever?
West.
Did you see the house?
Oh, yeah. Every morning, here was my daily routine. I would get up at 2, 3 in the morning. I would have a list of about 30 houses I would go drive. I would drive all 30 houses. I would jump in the backyards. I would peek in the windows. I would see if it's vacant. I'd try to get in. I'd knock on the door. I'd pretend I'm a pizza guy. I'd do whatever I had to do to see the house. And I would do these drive reports. And then by 9 o'clock, I'm back in the office. I'm comping all the properties. I had my friend who was down at the auctions. He was the bidder. I'm on the phones. And he would say, all right, the auction's starting. And we were literally hustling.
Yeah.
And I would tell him what to bid. He would bid. And if we won, I would have to pay for the property by 5 o'clock the next day. It was fantastic up until about 2012. Every day for years, I was printing cash. However, everybody and their mama caught on.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, these gurus started bringing busloads full of newbies down to the auction.
Yeah.
And I was looking around. I'm like, the good times are over.
Right.
It ran
Started
its
betting
course.
them up to
Every
market value.
every property.
The market turned.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah,
came back
but
to
at the
normal.
time I was doing so many deals. So many people were coming to me saying, "How do I do what you do?" Mm-hmm. And I was just outperforming everybody. And so I started taking on coaching and mentoring students, teaching other people the business. Clever Investor, the education business was born. I had software, I had data, I had training courses. I was the first person to document on video pretty much every single move I was making.
Yeah.
From 2006 on, I had these little flip camera things.
Yeah.
Like-
So you had the benefit of being really young at a time when everybody else was already, you had to go through Frank right at the auction. Everybody else was established, but they probably weren't. They weren't using the internet. They didn't know anything about social media. You were at the forefront of that.
As it started coming out, I saw the marketing platform in it all. I didn't even care about the social aspect. I cared about the marketing platform.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? If I just upload all these videos that I'm taking of myself, maybe I could get clients, and maybe people would want to buy more property from me, or maybe people would want to do business with me.
Did you even know that now we know you're doing that back then, and you're hitting the front end of all the search because you're in there now as the expert, the established guy that has the content about wholesaling, about whatever anybody may be interested in. Search is eventually going to pick that up.
Well, I started blogging when blogs came out, and I didn't even know what a blog was. I had to teach myself what a blog was. I'm not like a writer, or I don't journal, but I saw the marketing side of it. So I started writing articles, basically, about my day. Hey, here's what I experienced today. Here's the house. It was burnt down. I did this. I did that. Oh, this is a short sale. Here's what a short sale is. Oh, this is a loan mod. Here's what a loan mod is. And I just let those float out there. And then all of a sudden one day Google picked them up, and I started getting calls, and it turned in from 1 call a week to 20 calls a week to hundreds of calls. As the world melted, my content pushed. It exploded. And then all of a sudden, me being entrepreneurial, I was like, I could start a business around this.
Right.
I need people. So I just started telling everybody, hey, I need.
And weren't like news organizations were reaching out to you and stuff?
Yeah, I got lucky. I got a phone call from a local news channel that said, hey, will you come talk about foreclosures? I said, sure. That news report or whatever got picked up by a producer from Neil Cavuto's camp.
I think CNBC or
I think
Fox.
Fox News or something. And they said, hey, now it's 2008 or 9. They said, hey, Obama's about to come out with a HARP program. We would love to interview you and have you as an expert.
Are you 30? Not even?
Yeah, I don't even know. But I didn't even know what the HARP program was. Right. And I'm like, yeah, I just said yes to everything. I'm like, sure. Yeah. I had no idea what I was saying yes to. They showed up with like 5 satellite trucks.
Yeah.
It was like an army of news people, and they're like, we're going to be here all week. And I'm like, what? I thought I was just doing like a segment or something. And next thing you know, and I crack at I wish I could find this footage, but it's like the senator from New York, some Ways and Means Committee person, somebody from Washington from the Pentagon, and then Cody Sperber, who looks like he's 12. On these 4 squares, and Neil Cavuto's like interviewing us all. And he's like, so what do you think about the thing? And I'm just winging it. I have no clue what I'm doing. But I said one thing on that because I knew TV was powerful. I'm like, I just kept saying, and I bought the domain a week before they told me they were going to film. And then I bought a domain because I needed something to say. And they said, what do you want us to say about you? I said, just put Cody Sperber from adjustmyloan.com. Adjustmyloan.com. Because I saw that loan mods were going to be big and that short sales were going to be big. And so I just said, every time I talked, I would say, well, here at adjustmyloan.com, this is what we're seeing. And this is why and at AdjustMyLoan, I got millions of dollars in business by just those news segments over that week.
Oh, I'm sure.
When you started to, put out the blogs and things, how quickly did you see like your own following go up, like on Instagram?
There was no following back then. There was no social.
This was still blogs. 2010.
This is blogs first, so it was just content. Like there was like Active Rain and these different or these different blog sites. Nothing happened. That's what's weird about content creation. Sometimes nothing happens for a long time, but it's like now we look at it like as an omnipresence technique where it's like you create one piece of content, you spin it onto all these different platforms. Well, back then that didn't exist. So I would put out content and then nothing would happen. And then I'd put out more content, and nothing would happen. Then put out content, I might get a call or a website submission. But as you start stacking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of content, and then all of a sudden something changes with an algorithm, it pushed. Now, and I was early on Facebook, I was early on LinkedIn, and I was super early on Instagram. And I saw that each platform by itself is hackable. Each platform has something unique about it, the way it's designed for you to hack the system. And so,
meaning to play the algorithm.
Play the algorithm and scale it quickly, scale your following quickly. So for instance, Instagram, I realized very quickly that there was...
And you have millions of followers on Instagram now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's awesome. And I made crazy amounts of money. I built some of the best relationships I've ever had. Some of my best business partners came from relationships on Instagram. Getting a blue check mark is like one of the greatest things that can happen to you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So go back to algorithm, because everybody's hanging in the wings right now going, well, what's the hack on Instagram?
Yeah.
Which changes over time and it's never the same. But
what it is you got to realize, like, it's like a birthday party. Nobody wants to come to your birthday party if there's nobody at the party. So there's like groups of people that own these pages, and some of these pages are really large. They're funny video pages or they're entrepreneurial pages. I'll give you an example one, @MillionaireMentor. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's got over 5 million, 6 million followers. Jason owns that page. If you reached out to Jason and said, hey man, I want to pay you to put my content on your page, he'd say, yeah, sure, send me a few $100 and I'll put your stuff up there for the day or two. And this is how Jason would make money on his page. Well, there's hundreds and hundreds of these themed pages out there, and they're called shout-outs. Mm-hmm. And I started watching, starting in 2013, that there was these group of kids, and they were all in high school. And they owned these pages that were starting to scale. And back then, it was like maybe like 800,000 followers or 1 million. Now they're tens of millions. Mm-hmm. But and I would reach out to them, and I'd say, hey, are you interested in posting my content? And they were like, yeah, if you pay us $50, $40, $30. And I'm like, okay. And so I would post, and all of a sudden I would get 200 new followers. Yep. And something happens when I started doing these shout-outs, and something happens right around like the 5,000-6,000 follower mark. Your content starts getting pushed.
The algorithm says this guy's relevant.
Yep. We're going to make more money on this guy too.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. I was so consistent. I posted 7-8 times a day, every day of the week. And so I decided that content was king, not quality, quantity.
Nope.
I was going to come out with an insane amount of content. I thought of it like a pizza wheel. You know, this is my entrepreneurial quote section of the pie. This is my religious section of the pie. This is my family section. This is my health section. This is my real estate make money section. And I would just kind of rotate through my 8 posts a day through these different concepts.
And just push it out.
And I would just pump it out, and all at the same time I'm buying shouts.
Yeah.
And all this traffic was coming, and then people started resharing my stuff. This is why it's important to like write your name on your content. Yeah. So that way when it's shared, people know how to follow you and get back to you.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I started scaling. And if you look at like my social graph, it's like a exponential return. It was like very slow for like a year or two, and then all of a sudden it just spiked.
Spiked in the millions.
And it was beautiful because the amount of money and business and lead gen, so worth the leaning in on. So
and those algorithms are pretty much the same today. I mean, in a content crazy world from a consumption standpoint where the thumb rate's out of control, we all know from being on TikTok, whatever, you're just going through that stuff like it's popcorn. That is the fuel. Still, content continues to be the fuel that algorithm.
Well, you just got to pay attention to the platform. So like short form, like Reels is the thing right now.
Yeah.
If you need to make video a core competency, it is. I hated the sound of my voice. I didn't like the way I looked. You know,
get over it.
All the little things bothered me, and I would delete content as soon as I created it because I was self-conscious. But what you realize is nobody really is paying attention like you are. They're listening, they get a little soundbite, and they move on with their day, or they share it, and you just need to get over it. And so once I got over it, I started putting out the content. I realized, right now, Instagram's pushing stories, so put out a lot of story. Okay, now they're pushing Reels, put out a lot of Reels. That's where it's at right now. If I had to start all over and you said, what would you do right now? I'd say I would, every Monday, I'd create like 10, 15, 20 Reels and then start putting them out consistently. Yeah. And so like 1 or 2 days a week, I would create all my Reels. I would send it off to a VA to edit it, put typography on it, and then I'd post it. Yep. 3, 4, 5 times a day, every day of the week.
Progress better than perfection, right? Just get it out there.
Yep. And 1 minute or less soundbite type content.
So you've done an incredible job with that. Clever investor, hugely successful. You're in our offices here today from Phoenix because we think that you should be on television. Like we think that it's another channel of distribution that you haven't tapped yet. You know, in the 2000s, Gary, who you met with today with us, was one of our big clients, and they were spending a couple $1,000,000 a week with us, pushing a bunch of different real estate business opportunities.
And we've done stuff with like Dean through the years, and
Dean Graziosi,
Anthony Morrison, like those guys were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a week on as well.
Yeah, and you know, it's still a very relevant space, and it does float all boats. Your world is more in the digital world. You hang with guys like probably Grant Cardone and guys like that. I've seen your podcast and who you've had on there. But you're here because I think it's still what you're. And there's something happening with real estate here in the next 12 to 24 months. You know, it's 2022.
Probably sooner.
Coming into 2023, and you can sense it. You don't know, it's something. There's something there. You know, all the things are colliding. You see it in your social media pieces talking about, you know, the trillions of dollars pumped into the economy, inflation out of control.
Well, think about this. They haven't raised the Fed funds rate like this since 1994.
At an exponential rate.
It's the most aggressive they've ever done it. And the outcome of that is lending's too expensive. And if you think about how they calculate inflation, the majority of it is calculated in the construction real estate industry, like 40% of it. So if you're Jerome Powell and you want to save your job, what do you got to implode and pump the brakes on? Real estate, because that's a large part of how you calculate the inflation numbers. So you got to bring that down. You got to halt the real estate. It was out of control anyways.
Right.
And so the next few years is actually going to be the best years in real estate, in my opinion, because whenever there's massive disruption and pain, the opportunity for this transfer of wealth, like it was the last 6 years, everybody was balling out. Everybody was making money. Way too easy to make money. Now you got to actually be smart to make money. You got to have strategy and skills to make money. I'm looking forward. I mean, tens of millions in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
This time I'm like,
foreclosure.
Hundreds of millions. Let's go.
Foreclosure is your friend, right? They say that in real estate. It's a good buzzword.
And my favorite thing about my business that I'm in is, I want to get good deals, but I also get to meet people that I'm saving from a foreclosure or helping their credit get back on track or giving them the cash that they need to go and do the things in life that they really want to go do. But look, Americans are bad savers. On average, they save about $1,000 a year. The average American, by the time they hit retirement, saves about $65,000. Super savers save $95,000. I read a Forbes article a while ago that said you need to save about $1.8 million to comfortably retire. I think that number is really low.
Very.
If you want to make $10,000 per month from the time you retire at 65 for 20 years, you would need $3.4 million adjusted for inflation at 3.9%. Who can save $3.4 million? Like nobody. Like very small percentage of the population can pull that off. But what if I told you if you owned 5 Airbnbs, you can make $10,000 a month?
Yeah.
4 Airbnbs. You can
passive income.
It's just like real estate is a great vehicle to hack the system, help people out, make a lot of money, get the financial, like it's all of it.
Yeah.
My whole thing is this, is you want to find ways to make money while you're sleeping. Because think about it. If you have VRBO, you're sleeping and you're making money.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing.
And you just told us a great story earlier today about a VRBO you did in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right? So just walk through that quickly.
Well, I mean, a lot of people think that you have to have good credit and a great job and good job history and go to a bank and put 20% down to buy a house. And then you got to fix it up, furnish it, and then turn it into an Airbnb. Okay. What if I told you that I just bought one in Vegas where a lady owned it. She only owned it for about a little over a year. She only put 3% down or 5% down when she bought it. And now she needs to move. And it's a 6-bedroom house, 5-bath, pool, spa, great area of Las Vegas, clean house, looks fantastic, barely needs any work, maybe paint and some new flooring. And she just wanted to get out from underneath it, and she didn't want to pay realtor fees and all that stuff. She had about $80K in equity in total because the price did go up over that year. And I said, listen, you have a 2.75% mortgage. Let me step in and just start making those payments. I'm not going to assume your mortgage. I'm just going to pay the mortgage. You leave the house. I'll put $8,000 cash in your pocket. That'll cover all your moving expenses. You're out. And every single month, I'm going to not only pay the $3,000 mortgage payment, but I'm going to pay you $500 per month, every month for the next 10 years, going towards the $80K of equity. and it'll magically mailbox money.
She gets out of the house. She gets $500 a month. She got the $8,000, and you stepped in,
and she's
at a rate that you can't even come close to touching now. Right, so you leverage the finance.
It's the gold of the future.
Right.
If you think about it, a 2.75% mortgage, we may never see that again in our lifetimes.
Yeah, it's free money.
And think of this, and this is why Wall Street wins and the average American loses. Wall Street understands that at 8% inflation or 10% inflation, if you have a 2.75% mortgage over say a 10 or 15-year period, if the inflation is that much higher than your mortgage, inflation erodes good, cheap debt.
Mm-hmm.
I will actually pay negative interest over time on my mortgage because the inflation eats it up, meaning the dollars that she borrowed to buy the house were stronger than the dollars that I'm paying back the loan on.
Yeah.
Because it's a weaker dollar, I actually am able to mathematically hack my interest rate down to negative interest rate territory.
Your dollar's worth more.
I'm actually being paid to own that real estate. And so once you understand the math, and it was hard for me to understand that.
Yeah.
Because that's not what they teach you in school. But once I got it, I was like, that's why smart money wins.
Yeah.
And we're all dumb. We're going back to the bank and getting a 7-8% mortgage. That's the dumbest thing you can ever do. So find those golden those houses with those golden rates and say, hey, let me just take over your payments. I'll cut a deal with you to either make you payments on your equity or I'll cash you out of your equity, but leave the mortgage in place. That's called a subject to transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And you could do it one of two ways. You could do a subject to transaction, or you could do what I did, which was a wraparound mortgage. So if you've never heard those terms, go Google them, check them out, and you'll be blown away that like there's this whole world of creative real estate. It's called creative finance, where you can acquire houses without going to a bank. That's how I bought my last 30 or 40 houses.
Mm-hmm.
I probably will not go to a bank to buy a house ever again.
Yeah, just creative financing. And so the benefit of getting in early and also having your naval background, because I know you're probably anal, right, about all of your content that you've created from an IP perspective, is you have all these courses. And I'm not here to pitch Clever Investor, but I am because you're brilliant. You have all of these different funnels that you have, all of these different offerings that people can learn from, right? I mean, it's really literally you're just giving all of your knowledge, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Obviously, you charge for it, but you have all this experience. You've done extremely well with this, and you know it's all out there under Clever Investor. Where
yeah. You know, my whole thing is. I got great at real estate. It changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that success is an obligation. It's not a destination, and it's my duty to share it, right? I cracked the code. I was a broke bookkeeper, dope smoking dude from Mesa, Arizona with no successful people around him. And here I am, you know, first person in my family to graduate college, first person in my family to become a millionaire, multimillionaire, scaled all, you know, have all these followers, all this stuff. And then what? I don't share my stuff with them. I mean, that's crazy. And so I actually love to teach. I'm very passionate about real estate. And so it just felt natural to help people. But then there's also another challenge, and it's a marketing challenge. Like, how do I get this into people's hands? And I had to teach myself direct response marketing. I had to teach myself copywriting and what a funnel is. I had never heard of a funnel.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, but nowadays, whether it's TV or online, like people are busy. They're distracted with a billion different things. And I needed to come up with a process for them to be able to get my content. And that was like a whole nother skill set I had to like step back and master, because it's not like I could just hand you courses.
Yeah, no.
You got to find a way to.
And time again, we say this on Let's Make Millions. The successful marketers own their ad copy. They own the hook. They own the headline. They understand their product passionately. You write all your own copy, don't you?
All of
guess.
it. All of it.
Every script.
Every email,
everything.
every script, every video, all my stuff. And you should.
Yeah.
Because it's
almost.
authentic.
Yeah, and make it simple. Make it simple for the consumer to understand it easily.
Yeah.
But it's not simple.
And be playful with it. Look, I can sit here and say, hey, I can show you how to flip a house, no money, no credit, get paid within 30 days. That's a hook, right?
Yep.
Then all of a sudden everybody's saying that same message. What if I said, hey, instead of me teaching you how to flip a house within 30 days and getting paid with no money and no credit, what if I just locked arms with you and did it with you? Screw buying courses, let's flip a house together.
Mm-hmm.
Right, now that's a different hook. I would take those two hooks, put them out on my Instagram page and say, hey, I would just do some like research and hey,
A/B test it.
Which one do you guys resonate with better? And my followers would tell me, let's flip a house together. That sounds way more cool. Yeah. Now I can go build a whole course, a whole funnel, write copy. Like I already know that's the hook.
Yeah.
So many people build the course and like, it's like the Field of Dreams. Just because you built the stadium, nobody's coming.
Right.
You really got to understand what people really want and then backwards engineer into that.
Yeah. They're going to tell you, you're not going to tell them.
Exactly.
We always say that. Yeah. A/B test.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, lesson learned for us always is if you're the entrepreneur, if you're the marketer, you got to own your own story. You got to own your own copy. You can't have an agency doing it for you or something like that. It's got to be in your own voice.
Well, think about what kind of relationship you want with your customer and your community. I feel like when I did try to outsource it, my customers, it didn't connect the same. But when I started writing my own emails, and I started with emails, and I just wanted people to have a relationship with me, a real relationship with me, my whole business lifted the second I started writing my own email copy. Yeah. And by the way, if you don't have great drip campaigns for your customers, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. Absolutely. If you were to ask me in my real estate education business, what is the business? I'd say I'm an email marketer.
Yep.
My business is email.
Yeah.
Because no matter how big I get on social, I need to pull them off of social into my world.
Yeah. And you need to get more vulnerable and more personal with them. And the only way you can do that is with deeper text.
Get longer form text. And I want them to feel the energy I'm feeling at the time because, now I'm Cody Sperber at the, I'm at the clubhouse, the golf clubhouse with all my rich buddies. How do I connect with that new person from 18 years ago that's struggling, backs against the wall? Mm-hmm. They just got turned on to creative real estate. But they're scared to death.
Yeah.
And they're the ones drinking from the fire hose. And how do I connect with that disconnect?
Yeah. The headline's important, right? The headline is important. The hook is important. What color is your Lamborghini?
it's Verdi Ithaca.
Verdi Ithaca. The Lambo's important because it gets people to recognize something and say, okay, there's success here. There's something I want to latch into. But what we're talking about is that deeper, more meaningful connection.
I'm talking. People don't even care about the Lambos anymore. You know what they want? They want to know my real pain that I go through on a daily basis as an entrepreneur. They want to know my relationship struggles. They want to know what's really happening in my business that's really sucking right now and what I'm doing about it.
Your personal creator story.
They want you to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And say who you are and the real you, not just the Lambo you, so they can relate you and say, this guy's real. This guy shows me the real story. It's not just all the fluff. I'm a real guy. I work hard, and I want to show you what I've done, and I will help you.
And here's the truth: no matter how successful I got, for every new level, there was a new devil. There's always crap. There's always pain. There's always struggle. I just have bigger problems.
Yeah.
I just upgraded my problems, and I love it, and I want to continue to upgrade my problems, but I have to learn how to, when I'm writing, and I really have to visualize that one kid that was just like me, that feels out of place, that's the underdog, that's getting bullied or pushed around or passed over, and that's struggling, but is so hopeful inside and has so much youthful energy that they know they want to dominate, they just need the path.
Yeah, and they see you in themselves.
And now I connect with them. And also, here's something else. Don't be so politically correct all the time. Be a little confrontational, maybe tell some bad dad jokes or, for me, I cuss a lot. I didn't cuss on this, but like in my real life, I cuss a lot. I sometimes cuss in my email copy, and guess what? My open rates, the more aggressive I am or the more authentic I am, the better the response. My customer support will come to me and they'll be like, dude, we got 1,000 responses to your last email.
I just saw your reels where you were wearing your workout Lulus or whatever you were wearing, and the pocket was sticking out on the side.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, does this ever happen to you guys? And somebody DM'd you and asked the reason why. I'll let everybody go
you don't want
on
to know
social media to find out. But the fact that you put that shit out there, it gets attention.
It does. And, you look at guys like a Grant Cardone. Whether you agree or disagree, you know who he is.
Yeah.
Right? And there is some form of marketing there that the haters watch. Mm-hmm. The skeptical people that with their arms crossed, those are your best customers. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when they're real rigid and they're but they're still watching and screw this guy, screw his Lamborghini, who does he think he is, working out, looking good? Like, and then all of a sudden they slowly over time uncross their arms and they start leaning in. Like, what did he just say about buying a house for $8,000 in Las Vegas and making $6,000 a month in pure cash flow?
Right.
Next thing you know, they're opting in, they're in my email world, and then boom, I got them.
Yeah.
And I know it. I know that if you get pulled off into my world, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you, because I know eventually you're gonna like me.
Yeah.
We're gonna build a relationship, and we're gonna do some deals, or I'm gonna help you out in some way.
Well, we like you, dude. And
Great.
I can't thank you enough for coming by. It's been great to get to know you in a short amount of period of time.
Thank you.
We'd love to have you back. And let's develop this story about bringing you to television, and let's bring the viewers along for the ride and show them the whole process behind the scenes of how we get onto TV, how we get the direct response thing to work from a marketing perspective. Forget us making money and real estate and all that stuff. Let's get into the bowels of direct response, ad copy, creative, rolling a show out, all that kind of stuff.
I would love that. I'm fascinated by what you guys do. And you guys are the best in the world at it. And so I would love that. And I think now is the perfect time, because as the world shifts, the tsunami of pain that's coming for people, they're being priced out. We're witnessing the death of the American dream, especially in the real estate space. People will not be able to afford, and they are looking for creative solutions to create some extra income. And it's not about getting, I love this show, let's make millions, but look, an extra $2,000 a month will save people's lives here in the near future. And if I can go on TV and share the message that there's another path and an easy, simple way for you to get plugged in, I'm all about it. I don't care about the money. I care about the results, and I want to be one of the loudest voices out there to help people as this shift is happening, because it's going to be painful.
Well, we're excited to help take you there.
Let's go.
All right, man.
So